Okay, what's going on, guys? It's Willie Tone Zone here with another video on how to mix your snare drum. We're going to be looking at snare top. So let's dive right in. Please make sure to subscribe. You'll get more tutorials like this. So the first thing I'm going to use is an EQ on the snare top. So we're going to probably cut some things here, like a papery frequency. Let's look for that. Actually, before we get started, I put the kick to like -2 on the output here, as you can see, just because it was really loud. It's still kind of loud, but it's fine. We'll work with it. So let's get started with the snare top. I'm going to throw an EQ on it. So as you can see right there, in between 700 to 900 hertz, it was closer to 900 hertz, but the snare had this really like papery, like pop sound that makes it sound a little too upfront and in your face. So to fix that, we need to cut it a little bit. I cut it about like 6 decibels. You can play around with this, but yeah, so that's a frequency to look at. Also, keep in mind that this snare drum sounds really good. If you're working with an acoustic kit, you need to cut a lot more because there's a lot more bleed. There's random frequencies that are popping out, so you have to cut those. But with an already processed drum, that sounds fucking great. You just have to cut a little couple things that just sound a little funny to fit into your mix. We did that frequency. Now I think we're gonna focus on boosting. I'll have a quick listen to see if there's any other frequencies I would like to cut. Even dipping around just above 1K to cut out a little more of that really papery, boxy, slappy sound can actually push your snare a bit back, which is kind of what I want. I don't want it to be super in your face. So keep that in mind. After we've done our cutting, I'm going to throw another EQ on, but this EQ, we're going to focus on boosting. So a couple key frequencies that I like to boost is around 200 hertz, where the snare body is, to get that kind of low mid punch to it. Another frequency we could boost is around 2K for that stick click. That's good too. And also around like 4.5K, 4K-ish is cool. And 8K. 8K kind of shelf boost is really good. So let's try and make that happen. Another thing is we should high pass up to a certain point because you don't need all that low end energy from the snare. It's a little too much. So I'm going to cut like probably 70 hertz. Yeah, and that's good. So I boosted a little bit of 200. Some snares have different like 200 hertz frequency, I like to call it, because some are at 225 or some might be lower, but the general point is 200. You can play around with this as well. So I did a little bit of a boost at 200, and now I'm gonna find that stick click at around 2-ish K. Okay, I kind of like that. It kind of exaggerates the hit of the stick a little bit. So now we're going to focus on the high end. You can even boost at a higher frequency, like maybe closer to 9K with the snare. So yeah, like about that much is good to boost. Now the snare sounds pretty good EQ wise. So now we're gonna put a compressor on it. So let's do that. I'm gonna use the distressor again, just like what we used for the kick. Okay, so we got the distressor on now, and I would say the attack and release times, we need to make the release pretty short and then the attack a little slower. Maybe not as slow as the kick, so let's dial it in. I'll probably use about honestly, the 6:1 ratio will work. I want this snare to sound kind of like compressed. It's like going in, it's kind of being ducked, like you can hear it. Kind of makes it sound bigger. Something like that. So a pretty slow attack and like pretty fast release, but slightly not, you know, like a medium to fast release is really good for that. Play around with this and also use the high pass filter. So that's sounding pretty good. So now let's A and B all the moves that we did. So that sounds really sick. We'll A and B it in solo just to see, because you can't really hear it too much within the mix because the snare already sounds really good. But if we solo it in A and B, you can hear the difference of like boxiness and high end.